Uber CEO says the company took its drivers for granted. For Uber CEO Dara Khosrowshahi, it's pretty clear who got the ride-hailing service through the pandemic. It's drivers. He said prioritizing drivers helped the company weather a difficult period where riders and revenue dropped precipitously. Before COVID, I would say, just being self-critical, we took our drivers for granted to some extent, he said. We were generally oversupplied. We were much more of a consumer-focused company, and the customer, the rider or eater, was always right. I don't think much has changed. And if things have changed, it's not because they wanted to change, it's because they had to change. New York passed a law that increased driver protections for drivers in New York, but Uber and Lyft took those protections and just put it across the board, not because they wanted to, but because they had to. So that you don't get credit for that. And then on top of that, he's talking about oversaturation. How's that different? There are more drivers now on the Uber platform than there has ever been. I'm not saying that they should do something about that, but if you can't toot. You took advantage of us by oversaturating the market previously when the market is currently the most saturated that it's ever been. So to me, that's a red flag that nothing has changed, even though you think something has changed. The pandemic was what forced Uber to take a hard look at the driver experience with an eye toward prioritizing onboarding and other needs. The drivers saw us as a platform that was dependable for them, that listened to them and was fair, he said. But the nature of the earner economy and flexible earnings is that you have to re-earn that loyalty every single day. Ultimately, the power of Uber is these 6.5 million earners who are on our platform and the services they provide for everybody. It's not the first time that Khosrowshahi has noted the virtues of his company drivers. Last year, he said his experience moonlighting as an Uber driver was a wake-up call, one that pushed him to start valuing his workers behind the wheel more. I think that if everyone who worked for both Uber and Lyft was forced to drive 5 hours a month, their perspective on the decisions that they make would change. The coders would code the apps differently. The people who come up with like street bonuses and things like that would change how they operate. And I do think it's important for these people to go and actually work in the app that they're creating. I feel like it'd be so much better if there was some kind of mandate for that. The article says, we started celebrating employees going out there, delivering, employees driving. He said at the time, it's a point of pride for employees now. But Uber drivers aren't universally content despite Khosrowshahi's comments. Many have reported increased competition and declining earnings in recent months, making it more difficult to stay on the road as a gig worker. And just last week, frustrated Uber drivers across the country went on strike during the Valentine's Day holiday, protesting pay rates that vary widely and that they say are unsustainable. Some are pushing for minimum pay rates for drivers, which have already been enacted in New York City, Seattle, and California. Similar proposals are being considered in Minneapolis, Chicago, and Massachusetts. To me, just words right now, the actions they have taken are because they were forced to take those actions. So they don't get credit from me on that. However, I will say, even a scenario in which, CEOs are saying things for PR, right? This is kind of what I put this in. It could, even if that's not, there is benefit to it. There is some kind of allowance that I have in my personality that if you're going to publicly say this to the world, then I have hope, that a percentage of hope that you're going to start doing things that reflect that, right? It could be for different reasons. It might not be for the total financial benefit of drivers, but just saying that publicly is a step in the right direction. We just need to see the actions backed up from it.